So I know you usually introduce a subject for us, but I got one in my head.
Okay.
I don't know what you're going to think of this, but I want to talk about fighting and what's involved in a truly functional relationship. If people really want to get to a place where they're just doing great, it's going to have to include fighting. And I think people need to know how to do that because absolutely no one teaches us how to fight.
So you're telling me that there's no relationship that exists where a fight will never happen?
Well, yes, I am. And I would say even between you and me, working together as we have for as long as we have conflict. You know, we fight about things, but I don't remember a single time you've been abusive. I don't think I've ever been abusive of you. And we have sincere, heartfelt disagreements, and we stand for our own side of the argument. And somehow we magically resolve it, and it ends up being very adaptive. I want everybody else to be able to do that too.
All right.
You know what I'm talking about, though, right? I mean, you must have seen this with your friends,
Yeah,
family.
for sure. Mm-hmm. Yeah, something comes up, and then you have a conversation about it. And I mean, sometimes it doesn't always get resolved. That's a thing that happens sometimes.
Well, before we even got started today, you were telling me about talking to your two friends.
Yeah.
You should tell that.
Well, I went to an engagement party in San Diego for one of my friends, and we were just talking about relationship stuff, and they know that I work with you, and they were kind of talking about conflicts in their own relationships that came up, and I was kind of explaining to them that conflict does happen, as you say. Like, could you explain, how do you say that again with conflict?
Conflict is an essential and inevitable part of every intimate relationship.
Yeah.
That's what I say.
So I said that, and then I said, essentially what I've learned from you is that a healthy relationship is when the couple can come together around that conflict in an abuse-free way and resolve it in a timely manner. And that is what creates deeper intimacy, which is the ability to safely share your life with one another as you describe it.
And they were delighted to hear this.
They
made so much sense.
They fought me with it and didn't necessarily believe it. And then it was like they're like, oh, so you're saying every relationship's perfect and there is no fights. And I was like, no, I'm not saying that. I said conflict happens, but there's a way to resolve it that doesn't have to involve yelling and all that sort of stuff. And if you can't resolve a conflict, say for like 3 months, it's a sign that maybe you're with the wrong person and the compatibility is off. And they were just fighting me with that over and over again. What they were hearing me say is that relationships are easy, which I believe they are now because I've been working with you for 5 years. And I tell them too, it's not that the relationship is hard, it's growing up that's hard. And I think that's where a lot of people kind of are struggling because they're not. Growing up is hard. I'm growing up now and it's not fun sometimes. And you have to like face a lot of stuff within your past and look at your beliefs and how you've been handling yourself with relationships. And it involves a lot of inner work and being honest with yourself. But that's where I think the work is at. But they were just really hearing me say this and like not believing it. And then they were giving me examples of conflict and how it's like ongoing and it's like unresolvable. And
it makes marriage sounds like so much fun.
It sounds like a drag. And they're just like, this is how all relationships are. And it's like how I've observed pretty much all relationships in my life. And that's why I'm single. Because when I was younger, I was like, marriage looks terrible. And all you'd hear from people talking about marriage is how much of a challenge it is, how hard it is, how much hard work it is, how much sacrifice, how the guy is like just always, gotta go home to the wife, or it's horrible. I don't know why people do it. I mean, it's just for the sex. I mean, to be honest, I mean, sometimes I think that's the only reason people have relationships because they seem like they're miserable with one another.
Yeah, I suspect that you're right, that if it weren't for the sexual drive,
Hmm.
a lot of people, well, hardly anybody would get together,
Yeah.
really. Um, but I'm aware that a lot of religions teach that marriage is supposed to be hard and it's
Yeah.
supposed to be unpleasant, and that's one of the benefits of marriage is that it sharpens you and it makes you into a better, finer person.
Hmm.
And I really don't agree with that at all. And I think even if I'm not mistaken, I think even Jordan Peterson used to say things like that, that you become a better person for the difficulty in a relationship. And I think relationships can be challenging and I think they can be growthful, but I don't think they're supposed to be characterized by unresolved conflict. And I wrote some notes down and I'm sitting with them on my lap and I realized, oh, this is sort of complicated. There are all these steps or things to remember. And I want to challenge the audience that we've gathered to just try to have an open mind, maybe take some notes. Perhaps we'll write these up and release them as a little brochure, booklet, or something like that down the road. But these are principles to live by in a relationship and in dating that I think become quite natural over time. There was a time in my life where I didn't brush my teeth. And yet, after learning from my mom and, the dentist giving me additional pointers, and then, graduate school with flossing, and now I can say, yeah, I think I have dental hygiene down. But it was a process. It wasn't like somebody just gave me a headline saying, take care of your teeth. It was a process. And it's the same, I think, even I'm old enough to remember when cars came without seatbelts. And I remember what the government did to promote public health and safety by having these commercials. And people really didn't buy into them. We weren't using seatbelts for the longest time. They were just annoying. But now, when virtually any of us get in a car, the first thing we do is put on our seatbelt.
It's because of that damn beeping.
Well, even like,
Which they should outlaw that. That is,
my car just stops beeping after the first few seconds, and I could drive without my seatbelt. Oh, but I don't, because I've been educated to believe I don't want to get into an accident, but Lord help me if I do, because without a seatbelt, my odds of getting seriously hurt go way up, and the odds of everybody else getting hurt go way up. So yeah, everybody buckle up.
yeah.
And it helps that the cops help remind us of all that when they pull us over for a speeding ticket if we're not wearing our seatbelt. So this is in the same spirit that it's a public health campaign to do better at intimate relationships, which are really all about feeling safe. And the one exception we all kind of harbor is, oh yeah, but in an argument, we don't feel safe.
Mm-hmm. Well, I'd say too that I like that seatbelt analogy, because I feel like it required a lot of resources and support to shift the mindset of the culture.
And decades of ads.
Yeah, to actually go over in that way. And I feel like that's what this is, because we don't have any education on relationships. We don't get any education on relationships. We're just winging it with what we think that we know. And then we get stubborn in our beliefs and we're like, well, I've been in a relationship. I know how to do it. This is just the way that they are, but it's not. It's like there's another way. And I feel like this is allowing people to see there's another way of having conflict and resolving it. And I would also say too, like, I've been working with you for 5 years now. And
keep saying that, you make it sound so long.
Because well, it's taken me like a lot of, I mean, I edit all this stuff and it's been like every day for like 5 years in my head, but it took a long time. Like you're saying with the teeth brushing, I thought was really good too. It's like it took you a long time to get your dental hygiene in order. The same thing with me, to really understand these concepts took some time and some thinking and some reflecting. So it's not a process where it's just like you hear it once and boom, it's done. It's like you really have to hear it, want to do it, have the enthusiasm to actually put it into effect. And then actually, once you start putting the stuff that we're going to talk about into practice, you see the results, and then you're like, oh, wow, this is actually working. This is making things so much easier. And then you see how relationships can be simpler.
So the great thing about YouTube is that viewers can watch this video over and over and over, and you can watch it by yourself. You can watch it with your partner. You can watch it if you're single or if you've been in a long-time relationship.
Mhm.
And I would encourage everybody to try every one of those permutations. You know, before we get started, I think everybody owes it to themselves to maybe review some of the earlier podcasts we've done on establishing a relationship on a foundation of an abuse-free relationship that's based on equality.
Mhm.
Because without that kind of thinking going on in your head, what I have to say today is going to be a little more challenging to understand.
So just to recap, that the abuse-free life is when you commit to no abuse in your life. So you're not going to take abuse and you're not going to give abuse.
And that's me as a single person. It's an existential issue
that you have to resolve for yourself.
Yeah. What kind of man do I want to be? Or for a woman, what kind of woman do I want to be? And I think, you know, for me, all of that even starts prior to dating or as a sideline or adjacent to dating. I want to figure that out. But once I've got that figured out, the intentional interview, which is another whole thing we haven't talked about much at all. I think in the idea of actually not just dating to have fun, which is important, but also dating to get to know the other person, which is important, but getting to know them deeply.
Yeah. So that's where you're dating the person and asking them questions to see if whether or not you're compatible, whether or not the person believes in the abuse.
I wouldn't put it that way, Jason. For me, I think so many of my clients understand me to say it that way. So I've learned it's really not so much about questioning. It's about the whole presentation, because sometimes I just can share what I think, and then the other person will quite naturally share what she thinks. Or I might share, you know, I invite her over for dinner, we have dinner, and then she quite naturally invites me over, and then I can kind of see, how she lives. So we can see, are we even close to compatible in terms of lifestyle and that kind of thing.
So it's not, you're not just asking one question after another.
The intentional interview isn't some kind of police interrogation. It's just a mindful way of getting to know someone. And if in the course of dating, I find out the person I'm dating has a long history of being abused, that's a pretty significant fact to take a look at. And I would want to ask, so what kinds of abuse were you getting? And if they're not sure what kind of language to use, I for sure would say, well, was it just emotional abuse, or did it include physical abuse and even sexual abuse? And I think most of us are comfortable with those three categories in the main, and we understand what they mean at least. And then if it gets down to emotional abuse, was it like mutual yelling? I mean, which one of the two of you yelled the most? Or what about name calling, guilt trips, all of that business? And most people are going to say, well, they did most of it. We both did it, but they did most of it, or they did this, but I did this. So that you've established in your own mind, okay, she has a history, or the other person has a history of not only being abused, but also being abusive. And so I get to ask, would you be interested in an abuse-free relationship? And then I get to encounter what your friends offered you. Well, that's just not a thing. And they're not only agnostic about abuse-free relationships, they're atheistic about it.
Well, they also said this might make some people upset that when women have their period, that they're just completely illogical and they go off the rails, and there's no.
I'm like, I think isn't there a little icon with the guy going like this? And
Like
That's
an emoji.
yeah, an emoji. Because I've been very irrational in my life, but I've never had a period yet. And I have had my own terrible days with maybe getting out of the wrong side of the bed and just being in a bad mood the whole day. And I don't know if it was hormonal or if it was just something else in my life, but I don't think that's limited to women at all. I don't think
Well,
I don't think that's a thing.
Well, I was telling him too. It's like I lived with my last girlfriend, and it, she wasn't like that to me. Like some of the stuff she was saying, I mean, some of the stuff they were saying that their girlfriends were saying was just not my experience whatsoever. So, like, for instance, like
Yeah.
my one friend had his phone on the couch, and he's like, yeah, my girlfriend came in, and she's like, what the F is your phone doing like that? What's your problem? And well, that's
back into fair fighting or
yeah.
fighting because I want to talk about that. And we could even role play that in a minute.
Okay.
And I'll let you be the man if you want to, or you can be his girlfriend. But, when we're talking about fighting in a healthy relationship, it's really not, and this is something to make a note of, everyone. It's not a drive-by kind of thing where I just fire off a few rounds and keep speeding through the neighborhood. It's really more of an intentional thing. And it starts with asking for consent. So I look at my partner and I say, look, this might be uncomfortable, but I have a bone to pick with you about something you said or something you did. And I'm wondering if now is a good time. And the reason I'm asking is because I want consent for us to both be on the same page that we're going to have a fight. And that fight, in the context of an abuse-free relationship, is going to be pretty great. It's going to be a great experience because although in my family, fighting was always synonymous with abusing.
I think that's a case for a lot of people.
Oh, absolutely.
And
So if you
why-
take fighting and as an arithmetic problem and you subtract yelling, you subtract name calling, you subtract guilt trips and put downs and intimidation and all the other things that go with that.
So you're taking away all the fun.
I'm taking away all the crazy. If you take away all of that and you're really more of two executives on the corporate board of directors, and what you're trying to do is establish, well, is there or is there not a breakdown in the production of happiness? Because that's why we're together, is so we can both be happier together. And if there's a breakdown in those production lines, I'm interested. I want to know whether it's she's unhappy or I'm unhappy. I want to know what we're both feeling and what was the beginning of that. When did it start? So for me, the answer is almost always going to be yes. But sometimes I'm going to say, if she says, is now a good time for us to have a fight? Not really. I have to leave for work in 15 minutes. So it's not a good time. Or let me eat first because I need to eat. And if I don't, I'm not going to be on my game.
What if it's something though I need to tell you now?
Yeah. What's really great about that is if we're two adults, we recognize that neither one of us is running a 911 service. Time is not ticking away while the patient is bleeding out on the floor or where they're being deprived of oxygen. I'm going to be here in 15 minutes and I'm going to be more present, and you want me to really hear what you have to say. And so to say, yeah, now isn't a good time because I do have to leave. Well, when would be a good time? Well, what about this Saturday after breakfast? I mean, we'll both have eaten, we'll both be rested, we won't have to go anywhere. Does that work for you? Yes, it does. And because again, it's not a battle for survival in the jungle, where it's, only the fit survive and the rules of the jungle apply because it's might makes right. It's really about two people who want to build something worth having. And so
if they say yes to that, they both agree Saturday. So the mutual consent, that's the first stage. Yes. So they got that. So then now it's Saturday.
We've scheduled it. Yeah, whether it's now because I want to fight, I want to have that fight now, or I waited until Saturday.
So then it's Saturday and I say, you piece of crap, this is what you did.
Usually what happens, at least in my experience, is once we've both learned deferred gratification. And Saturday has rolled around. Now it's kind of drained like 90% of the emotionality out of the moment. And we're now there to solve the problem.
Okay. So
And
they still have the problem, but their emotion isn't as like
intense
as it was at the time.
Yeah.
So they had some time to cool off.
Yes, exactly. And now I've got my and now I've got my prefrontal cortex online, not my amygdala, because I'm not thinking fight or flight, because you're so pissed off that I'm scared. I'm thinking, yeah, let's do this. Like, we can solve this. We can solve anything. If I'm dating someone who can't do this, can't even get us to the scheduled consensual fight, that's something worth fighting about in itself. That's because I don't want to fight about something that matters to me with someone who hasn't agreed to fair fighting. And fair fighting involves consent. It involves scheduling if necessary, deferred gratification, a commitment to an abuse-free life. If I'm dating somebody I love, who loves me, but they can't do that, then I'm not dating an adult on a functional level. They may look adult, but they are not adult. And they may be even struggling with an impairment in their mental health. And a lot of people do. And I get that. But that would be vital information for me, information that would lead me to slowly fade away and stop returning calls and start dating some other people.
So this is about, you want to be having this experience during the intentional interview before you make a commitment to somebody.
Thank you. That's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah. But let's go back to the fight really quick. So you consent with it. You sit down on Saturday. So there's 3 rules, as I know. It's the mutual consent. And then during that fight, when you are negotiating, that's where the abuse-free life comes in, because you have to fight in an abuse-free manner.
Right.
So like me calling you a piece of crap wouldn't fly, right?
It would not. In fact, if you said that, I would say, as the woman in that role play, I would say, hey, well, hold up. I'm willing to fight with you about anything, but I'm not willing to fight with you about anything at all until we fight over whether we're going to have an abuse-free relationship.
And what if you said that and I was like, oh.
I would say, okay, then, I got to go now. And I would move along. Because if you don't have that commitment, or if it's a commitment that's so tissue thin, you can shred it whenever there's a little bit of emotions, then you really don't have a commitment to an abuse-free relationship. And you can't get to a good relationship until you first have a safe relationship. And it isn't safe if my partner retains the option of being abusive here and there.
Yeah. So they need to have no abuse during that thing. So they need to be able to talk without me calling you a piece of crap, or me making noises, eye rolling. Of course, anything physical, intimidation, or anything like that is completely off. And then also you'd like to say, so it's mutual consent, it's abuse free, and then one subject at a time. So if it is a fight, you're not going to be like, okay, I have a list here, I'm going to go down the list.
Well, let's say
dishes,
I was fight with
not
you.
taking your shoes off.
And I was picking I wanted to fight with you about what a slob you are. And even using that word slob, that's abuse. And swearing at you, well, that would be more abuse. If I said something like, I don't want to pick up your fucking shit anymore, that's abuse. So how can I talk? This is challenging for those of us who grew up in abusive families, who literally don't know how to talk without being abusive.
Well, it's just normalized at that point.
Yeah. So to learn how to say, okay, look, I feel really uncomfortable when I come home and the house is a mess. And I notice 90% of the stuff that's cluttering up the house is yours. It really bothers me. I'm having a problem with that. Now, I said all of it without abusing you, without putting you down or anything else. And so you get to say something.
So in that scenario, if I said, well, the only reason I do that is because you're always on me about all the stuff, and I get frustrated in my head, and I can't pay attention to things, and I just don't have time to. It's you're causing it. What if I said something like that?
Well, I would call you out.
Mm-hmm.
I would say you're saying that I'm responsible for the way you behave as a man. I'm not buying that. And for me, I don't want to be with someone. I would say to you,
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to be with someone whose masculinity is so fragile that if I make a complaint about how messy things are, you justify ignoring it even more because I spoke up. I work so much with men. I can tell you men are terrified of confronting in an abuse-free way. I mean, they sound in the role plays I've done with men in my office, even in group when 9 other guys are watching, he sounds so mealy-mouthed and such a wimp that it's embarrassing. And I said, really? You can't just speak up like an adult and you're going to people please your way into this conflict resolution? So I said, let's just start again with, hey, I have a problem and I'm hoping you can help me with it.
Mm-hmm.
And I usually if I play the other person, and I usually do, I don't play an easy person. I play a difficult person, whether it's the man or the woman. And I'll say, after hearing, I have a problem with all the mess in the house, and I really want to know if there's some way we can solve this problem. And I might say, well, that sounds like a me problem, and that's on you. It's not my problem.
Mm-hmm.
Now, what's the remedy to that that's abuse-free? Well, it is a me problem. I know that I'm the one who has the pain, so I'm the one who has the problem. But I'm bringing it up to you because I want help in solving this problem. And if you cannot help me or will not help me, then I assure you, I will be able to solve this problem on my own. But you might not like the answer.
Yeah. Do you feel like a lot of people are willing to say that and then walk away from that relationship if they realize their partner is, or their person they're dating? I mean, we'll start with dating.
Yeah.
Just so, say they've been dating for like 3 months and like this problem kept going on and on and on and on and on.
I don't like the way you drink.
Or even the slob stuff, the stuff about the cleanliness. Like if it's constantly being brought up again and again and again, 3 months, like to me, that would be enough time to say this person I don't want to continue with this person because we cannot resolve this conflict.
Well, for me, it's the 3 times, 3 strikes, you're out kind of rule. I suppose you could do less. I just feel like, if somebody is struggling with a certain part of their life, I do want to give them time to incorporate our discussion, to really have a chance to like figure out how to solve the problem.
Yeah.
And if it feels, what I don't want, I really would like everybody listening to this to understand that you can be the lover or the therapist, but you can't be both. So you can be the boyfriend or the therapist, or the girlfriend or the therapist, but you can't be both. And if it feels like work to get somebody to clean up the kitchen, that's not really what I want to be doing in a relationship.
Yeah.
I'd like to start off any relationship at a higher level than that. And the same thing with, let's say, hygiene, or the way that they're drinking. If, every time I come over or we get together on a date, I notice that she's drinking a lot, that I would feel uncomfortable. And I would bring it up, not maybe on the date.
Yeah.
I would bring it up when she's sober. And I'll say, what's going on? And that's maybe something today we could role play. But I think for people listening to this right now to understand that this is part of the process of qualifying a future mate.
Yeah, this is all before committing into the relationship.
Yeah.
So like for me, it's more of
or even after. Let's say the drinking didn't even start until 2 years into the relationship.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden my partner's drinking heavily or using recreational drugs when they never used to use any at all. That's a problem. if you're looking to have a sane relationship.
But then people will say, but I'm in love with this person now because we spent 2 years together.
Well, you can still love her. You could love her from across town, though.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you could still love her from afar. You could still love her because you're a loving person. And you don't have to stop loving somebody to recognize that this is an unsustainable model that's simply not going to work.
Says you. Like, right? You can't.
Okay,
I mean, 'cause,
good challenge.
Mhm.
So it says me, yeah. Is it going to work if she keeps drinking the way that you're objecting to? Is it going to keep working if he continues to maintain a kitchen that would be raided by the authorities if they knew?
But I love her. It's like,
You get to keep loving her. So what's that? I would say, to quote a famous artist, what's love got to do with it? Tina Turner was right. You know, what's love got to do with it at that point? Because it really is a time where you have to recognize that a commitment in a sane relationship takes more than mere love. Love is not a small thing. It's a major thing, but it's only one of a number of essential components that include, compatibility at a certain level, faithfulness, fidelity to one another, sobriety, a commitment to an abuse-free lifestyle. All of this is essential to having a happy relationship.
Mm-hmm.
So too, I would add is a willingness, a good faith effort to resolve problems. If I bring up a problem and you agree that it's a problem, even if it's only a problem for me,
Mm-hmm.
then if we can't solve it together, I can solve it on my own. If I'm the woman and I say, I really don't know how to get my hair done. I've been bleaching my hair for years, but I'm not sure it's healthy and I want to change that up. And you say, well, that's a you problem. There's a lot of truth to that being a you problem, because as a man, you don't want to be responsible for how she grooms herself and her beauty regimen. I get that.
Mm-hmm.
But as somebody who loves her and cares about her, you might say, well, something encouraging, like, you know what? I support you in your decision, whatever it is. I just want you to be healthy so you can be around for a while. Okay, that's very permission giving. But she says, no, I want you to decide. So now we're having a new conflict.
Mm-hmm.
It's not enough for me to be supportive about a decision that's about her. She wants me to take responsibility for her decision, so that if the new hair color, and you suggested pink, the new hair color she hates, and people are making fun of her. And so that's now on you. No. So you decline that responsibility and you say, no, I'm going to be supportive, but that's really you. Like if you have longer hair, if you decided the next time you ever go to a barber, you want shorter hair, that's your call, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's your body. It's your call.
Mm-hmm.
So I think we all need to learn a little bit about boundaries, because there are problems that are our problems, like the way we spend money.
Mm-hmm.
Then there are problems the way maybe I spend my money as a single person and I'm always broke. Can you cover dinner tonight, honey? Because, when we're dating and she's getting invited out on a date, but she's always being asked to cover the bill. That's not going to work. That's not sustainable. We're just getting taken advantage of at that point, I think.
So say you have somebody being like not being clean and not having a clean space that they live in, and you have that conflict, you have that conversation, and then both parties agree. It goes well.
Yeah, now we resolve the conflict. We have a deal.
Yeah.
We have an agreement.
Like, what is your thoughts on like how long of a time span do you give people to have these things be resolved? I would say 6 months would be too long for sure. I
think those rules are kind of hard, because for me, it depends on you and your emotional sensitivity to the issue.
Okay. So it varies by person.
Yeah. And also it depends too on your perception of, is the other person really making a good faith effort, but it's very challenging to them. So let's say I'm struggling with sobriety. I've never been called out for my drinking before.
Mm-hmm.
She's called me out and I realize, oh my God, I really do have a problem. All my friends are drunks too. And I don't want to be a drunk the rest of my life. And so I start trying to figure it out. And it starts with me making a good faith effort on my own to cut down my drinking. I only drink 1 6-pack a day instead of, 3 or something.
Yeah.
And she's still on me about that. And I realized gradually over time, it's not about a tapering off thing. It's about an abstinence sort of approach. And that is hard. Now, if she's convinced that I am making a good faith effort and she's maintaining really good boundaries, she isn't moving in with me, she isn't counting on me to be sober because she knows I have a problem.
Yeah.
She's just kind of dating me, but is observing me.
And she's seeing the little progress that you're making.
And I'm making, she sees these efforts I'm making. And
that's how change usually happens. It's not like,
in my experience, it sure does. And after all, we're equals. I'm not her therapist, and she's not mine. And we're not paying for this, guidance. And I think it could take a minute. Like, even the guy, let's say, who isn't used to working regularly. I mean, I personally know guys who are always quitting jobs, and they always have good reasons for quitting. And they're always sort of off-putting to me, those reasons, because he doesn't have a fallback position. It's not like he's going back to his old job at Bank of America where he was making $100,000. No, he's going back on unemployment, or he's going back into his parents' couch and he's living at home with his parents. That's a problem. Because again, that means I'm dating somebody who's not really responsible for their own maintenance, and they're not really a grown-up. And so whether I was a man or a woman in that scenario, I would be fading away quickly than 1 month.
okay.
I mean, as soon as it became apparent.
So it's a personal thing that people have to say what they feel comfortable with, essentially.
Yeah.
And what they're willing to put up with. But if the person is not showing any signs, so say that guy who isn't getting a job or the guy isn't showing any effort, the whole thing, and say it's been 6 months and they haven't done anything, they're the same way that they were from the start. I would, again, I feel like, I don't know why I keep wanting timelines to this stuff, because I feel like sometimes people get stuck in something and then they're like, well, it's only been 6 months. And then it's like, it's only been a year. Well, it's been 2 years. And now it's deeper.
Yeah, we get stuck. You're absolutely right.
And then they go back to the love thing. It's love, but I know what's love got to do with it. But they still attach to that. It's love, and I love the person. And now I'm in this relationship where I'm taking care of somebody.
And it's profoundly unsatisfying. And in that case, I would say that ain't love. That's my neediness emotionally.
For the person who's staying with
I'm
the
staying
person.
with this poor excuse for an adult because I don't have the courage to go on without them. And I'm afraid I won't have further options. And after all, I haven't had any love in a long time. And you want me to give up the little that I'm getting in exchange for nothing? And I would say, no, you stay as long as you want to do this, because life has this way of teaching us lessons. And sometimes those lessons take years or even decades to learn. But for me, I would say to my friend, that would be too painful for me to stick around.
Yeah.
And the timeline thing, or even like I like to say, 3 strikes, you're out. I think it's really important to recognize that there is this process of acclimating to something that I normally would be put off by. But if I stick around, I become desensitized to the objectionable behavior.
Yeah.
And so many people who are watching this are already in a relationship with that person. And it could be any relationship, a friend who doesn't treat you right. It could be a parent who always talks down to you, no matter how old and responsible you are. It could be a lover or a spouse. It really could be anybody. And I think at some point, it's really helpful to call a timeout and just say, I'm taking a break. I can't do this. And to reset the whole thing, to say, I just want to know, what is it like to be living a life where nobody puts me down? What is it like to live where nobody in my life is an alcoholic who's actively drinking? What is it like? I just want to know, what is it like to be with somebody who takes care of themselves and their property and lives, in a decent, orderly way? I can't do that with you, and I want to know what it's like. So I'm taking a break. And for a lot of people, now the real fight begins. No, you can't leave me because I need you.
Yeah.
And so this is really challenging. But again, every one of us, including myself, we all need to be really aware of systematic desensitization. It happens to every single one of us. It's one of humanity's great strengths, but it's also our Achilles heel because we can get used to things we have no business being used to.
Yeah.
And one of those things is this whole thing about arguing.
Yeah, but going back to that, so like this is why we talk about the intentional interview being something where we're getting to know the person, who they are, and we're sharing who we are.
But I've dated them for a year. I already know who she is.
But you want to say during that process before getting into a committed relationship, you say that it's good to have at least 3 of these conflicts. And
yes.
And done in a way that you're doing it in the fair fighting way, where no abuse, mutual consent, one subject at a time. And this, if you resolve those, that shows that you are well on your way to being in a healthy relationship that could grow and flourish as time goes on. Which isn't to say it's ever going to be perfect, but I always also tell my friends, I was like, yeah, when you do this, when you put this into practice, and you learn how to resolve these conflicts, I was like, it gets easier and easier. I was like, Steve and Sharon, who is your wife, you two always talk about how you're like, kind of like Jedi conflict people.
I never say Jedi, but.
Well, that's my interpretation of it. Like you're saying you have a conflict at a table and it gets resolved within a conversation that happens between you two. And most people are unaware that you even had a conflict.
Yeah, my son, who's in his 30s, he likes to joke, I hate it when mommy and daddy fight. And we're both talking in a normal conversational tone, just like you and I are talking right now. And but we disagree. And again, back to that arithmetic problem, you subtract out all of the heat of the abuse and all of the fear of abuse, and you're left with 2 calm people who are trying to solve a problem. The opposite is what I've lived with before in a previous relationship, where I'm thinking to myself, oh my God, if I've had this fight once with her, I've had it 100 times. And that's my observing ego noting, we don't know how to fight. We don't know how to resolve conflicts. We never resolve conflicts. And there were many conflicts like that just
well, don't they stack
never
up
got
and
resolved.
Stack up, and then don't you think the stacking of those conflicts puts pressure on the relationship and then starts decaying it and like destroying it from the inside out, kind of?
My own sense is that sometimes, yeah, it feels like they're stacking up, but sometimes it feels like they're lining up horizontally, and it's just like, oh, it's like looking at a shelf, and you just opened the cabinet of all of our unresolved problems. And like a rack of spices in jars, you say, okay, there's the one about the kids, and there's another one about money. Oh, and there's another one about money, and there's one about sex. And as we go through, they're all unresolved, and yet it doesn't matter if they're stacking or horizontally arranged, because the level of dissatisfaction in the relationship just keeps growing and growing and growing. And yet, now I'm, 2 or 3 kids deep in the relationship. Now we have a mortgage. Now we've got all these other hindrances to simply breaking up and moving on. So that's why I really like people to have 3 fights before they get into a committed relationship. And I want to add, for those who are recovering power and control freaks like myself, and who can be somewhat manipulative, you don't have to create a fight out of nothing. There will be things to argue about because no 2 people agree on everything.
Yeah.
By definition, we all see life from different perspectives. I'm not in your shoes. I'm not in your position in life, literally and figuratively. And so we see things differently. And that's okay. So much of the time, it's really okay. I don't care if she changes her hair from this way to that way. She's still the same person. And I hope she doesn't care if I wear a suit and tie or I decide to go with a far more casual look, because I'm just being me. The essence of who I am isn't really changing. But when it comes to something that's really affecting us both, like the environment that I live in, and I'm inviting her over to have spaghetti dinner at my place, and there's food and dirty dishes everywhere, that's not very appetizing for her. No restaurant presents that way. And so she might wonder, like, does he ever wash his dishes? How often does he wash his dishes? And that's a problem. That's an us problem. And even if she has a problem that's about her, like I'm dating a single woman and she has a child, and I'm irritated with her child. And that did happen to me in my current relationship before we ever moved in together. I was irritated with him because he felt in his feeling threatened by her giving me a lot of attention. He would behave badly to get more attention. And that meant sometimes he would destroy some of my property in my house. Well, I would get annoyed, but I was so chicken at the time, I just kept minimizing it because I so desperately wanted to work it out with her. She noticed what she was doing, but she also was doing the same thing because she too wanted it to really work out with me. And once we both realized that and we're talking about it, I started laughing. And I said, well, we're condemned to being courageous here because the only way out through this is for us to talk about it. I need you to do something with your son. But I don't know what to do. And I said, I don't either because he's not mine. He's your 3-year-old, not mine. And she said, well, what do you think I should do? I said, I don't know because he's your son and it's your relationship. But you're a therapist. Yes, but I'm not your therapist.
This is how it was going?
Yeah, this is actually like word for word how it was going. And then she said, yeah, but you must have some ideas. Well, I said, somewhat reluctant, I said, if it were myself and I realized I had a problem with my own child, I might go to a bookstore and look for a book on parenting. And that minute, she said, can I borrow your keys? Because she was visiting me and from out of town. And I said, absolutely, here you go. And her son wasn't with us on that trip. And she went ahead and went to the bookstore, came home with the book, and got it halfway read before she returned to her home out of state, and made some changes. I wanted to be true to myself, but I also didn't want to be controlling of her. So I wasn't sure what she was going to do or what books she would buy, what discipline method she would employ. I didn't know what was going to happen, but she was so smart and so good-hearted. She found something that seemed to work for both of them. And it resolved the conflict. And it was a big conflict.
Yeah.
It was really heartfelt and very touchy. But it wasn't mine to solve. I could be supportive, I could be helpful, and she had a similar problem. I have a friend who's a misogynist, and he doesn't behave in a misogynistic way most of the time, but he's got some irrational beliefs that are really problematic. And occasionally, not always, but just occasionally he would say or do something. And back in those days, I found myself not standing up for her. I found myself passively simply observing him. And when we started talking about it, I realized, oh, I need to step up here. And I did. I remember starting to say things, but again, it was a process, right? Like you said. And it was new to me. That's been like 30 plus years ago. And I'd never really confronted a friend, especially a good friend who had really been there by my side and who had really been loyal to me personally and who was funny and really a stand-up guy in his own right. But all of us have defects of character, right?
Yeah. And then if you're your friend, a lot of times you just accept.
Yeah, that he's flawed.
Mhm.
And I didn't want to be a friend who starts doing a makeover on my friend. And another thing, you need to change this too. It was, for all of our friends, and I think that the friends of the people in our audience, all of our friends have defects of character. Part of being a friend is we put up with it most of the time because most of the time it really doesn't matter. There's so many positive character traits that we're more than willing to put up with the other stuff. Or they don't affect us directly until they do.
Yeah.
And when I got a committed relationship in my life, it started affecting me directly. So my new behavior started affecting him directly. And he doesn't do the same things now in his relationship with us that he used to do.
Mm.
So it's changed. But I was willing to let go of that relationship with him if he couldn't change.
Okay.
Because it was as ugly a truth as racism is ugly.
Mm-hmm.
And if my girlfriend were of a different race and my friend was racist actively, yeah, that's not going to work.
Yeah. So these are like, some of these conflicts are difficult things they're not simple, but it sounds like it requires some courage and some serious like confrontation.
Yeah, absolutely. And when I say confrontation, and I think you mean the same thing because we've known each other so long, I don't mean that angry.
Yeah, exactly.
You fucked up and you need to make this right. That kind of thing. I don't mean an abusive confrontation or even an angry one,
mm-hmm.
but certainly a well-spoken from the heart confrontation that says, I can't stand it when this happens.
Mm-hmm.
Can you help me? And for the other person to even maybe tender an apology. You're right. I haven't been courageous.
Mm-hmm.
Or you're right. I haven't been thoughtful. Or you're right. I haven't had enough empathy to see how you might have felt in that situation. I am so sorry. I commit to changing that. And that's hard to get there. Now, I wrote down like 13 different points. I think we've covered 4 or 5.
But I feel like we covered a good extent. It's like, I feel like if people know like that conflict is essential and inevitable in every relationship.
And just breathe.
And that it's okay to feel the feelings, but it's really not okay just to throw that on to the other person. It's like, take some time for yourself to collect yourself, set up a time where you could discuss it in a way where both people are calm. And especially if you're just dating the person, you want to have three of these conflicts to see whether or not they are able to resolve these conflicts with you in an abuse-free manner.
Can they fight fair?
Yeah.
And I don't mind having a fight, but it's not the law of the jungle where might makes right.
And then what would you say though about people who are in a relationship who have spent, 20 years fighting the way that they've been doing it, or have the cabinet full of all the different spices of the different
unresolved
conflicts? Like, that's probably
it's too late. It's too late. They're dead. Spiritually, just inside, everything is. No, it's never too late. It is never too late.
Like, this is something you could learn, and then you could kind of say, "Hey, I just watched this podcast with this guy Stephen A.
Will you watch it?
Who thinks he knows everything?" Like asking, like, watch it with you, and then starting. But somebody could take a cabinet full of that stuff, and one by one, because you can't do it all at a time. It might take us months or years. But just one by one, go with those conflicts and speak with them without abuse and work it through, and they could slowly check the list off.
Whether we're going to attribute the unresolved conflicts to abuse, to patriarchy, to matriarchy, to
whatever it is.
Whatever it is, it doesn't matter. We can dismantle that dysfunctional edifice brick by brick.
Mm-hmm.
It's got to be done methodically, one by one.
Yeah.
And yeah, any one subject is okay to fight about,
Yeah.
but it's got to be limited to one. And sometimes we say, well, would it be okay if we tried this resolution for 1 month? Would you be willing? And the other person says, okay, yeah, I'll try it for a month. And at the end of the month, if it doesn't work out, we can revisit this. We'll circle the date on the calendar and we can revisit this and modify it if you want to. Okay, that's fair. You come back in a month and we're both happy. Well, okay, that's one brick.
One, yeah.
Yeah, and then we could go on to the next one.
And as they continue on, I would say for the people in a relationship, like we talked about earlier, it's going to get easier and easier and easier because I feel like a lot of it comes from people having fear of not even wanting to look at it because of the or what it's going to be like to confront that.
It'll be abusive.
Like yeah, exactly.
It's going to be ugly. The children are going to cry. And I'm going to be embarrassed or upset.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, once you gain the confidence to do this in an abuse-free way, which sometimes means I don't know what to say, and I'd rather just not say anything. Can we revisit this tomorrow?
Mm-hmm.
Take a break. Yeah. By all means, take a break and then come back to it. Taking a timeout is always going to be okay. But when I come back to it, eventually, I want to resolve the conflict and then revisit in a month or so to make sure that the resolution is mutually satisfying. Because the goal here is not to win the fight. I think I had that in my mind for the longest time. And I'm going to also say, if there's any guy out there or any person out there who really doesn't think they can do this, I was one of the worst fighters, the most unfair fighters I know. So if I can do this, anybody with a good heart can do this. Just takes that good faith effort to try, because what you're talking about, it's a skill. It's a skill like counseling is a skill made up of countless other small micro skills. And the skill in fighting with a spouse is to do all these things that we've talked about and to hold them all in mind. And no wonder you don't do it perfectly the first time. That's okay. Don't beat yourself up over that. Just say, I'll keep working on this. I'm going to do better. It's just for those who are already in a relationship with 10 or 20 years under their belt where it's been uncomfortable because none of the problems have really gotten resolved. I know it's going to be harder. It's going to be hard. But I think if you stayed 20 years already, it's going to be worth the effort. And if you get to a point where you've just been avoiding the reality that your partner is incapable of resolving conflict, incapable of having an abuse-free exchange, incapable of making a good faith effort to come up with solutions that would work for the both of you, then you have a different problem. And that's how do I terminate this relationship? Because even if you're my age, and yes, I'm as old as planet Earth, if you're my age, life's too short to be staying in a profoundly dissatisfying relationship. Even being alone is less lonely than being with someone I can't talk to.
That's the mic drop.
As you say. Yeah.
Thanks, Steve.
Yeah, man. You're welcome.